This happened last July, while me and my boyfriend's family were on vacation in Carolina Beach, North Carolina. Every year my boyfriend's family rents a pretty nice beach house for a week around July and takes a vacation. This was my first year being invited. It's beautiful, a lovely peach color, 4 bedrooms, and only a block off the beach. I'm not sure how to explain this, I'm sure there's a term, but the house is on what seems like stilts, and you can park your car underneath the house. It's exposed and completely open below the house, so it's not a garage. We parked our car down there was a table for hanging out, the laundry room, and also a private enclosed outdoor shower down there as well. The house had 2 upstairs porches, just a walk up the steps from the car to get to the doors into the beach house. Now directly across our beach house is a little mom and pop restaurant. To the left is a gas station, and to the right is a 24/7 laundromat. The main porch is facing the restaurant. You can see all of these places from underneath the house and the porch. It's pretty open. This is normally a pretty quiet, tourist town, and the family has been coming here for years and has never had an issue before. I swear this is all important later. It's our next to last day on vacation, and the landlord of the house has always been good to the family, so we wash all the bed sheets for him, including a heavy down comforter that needs to go to the laundromat instead of our washer and dryer. Boyfriend's mom and I take the blanket over to the laundromat around 10 p.m. We stay out on the porch to watch the laundromat and make sure no one comes and steals our blanket. We're checking on the blanket and it's taking way longer than we originally thought. It needed washed twice on the longest setting to get clean, apparently. By the time we put it in the dryer it's 1 a.m. Somewhere between 10 and 1, a maintenance man shows up and is working on a few of the machines. He's nice, says hi, how are you, don't use these 3 machines as they've been running subpar. We go back to the house and the family joins us, all sitting on the porch drinking, talking about how we're about to leave and generally having a good time. It's 2:15 a.m. now, and boyfriend's mom asks me to go check on the blanket and run it another time if necessary. I have a bad feeling for some reason, blamed it on the booze, and asked if my boyfriend's dad could do it. Boyfriend's dad is a pretty huge guy, and is scary as hell if you don't know him. He says fine, goes and runs it a little longer. Now the boyfriend and me are pretty avid marijuana smokers. His family doesn't care, so we go in the private outdoor shower, lock the door, and start toking away. There's a seat in there separate from the shower part, so we just chill there. A few minutes later, we hear some loud banging from the laundromat. We go out and see that the maintenance man is still there. We say whatever and go back to smoking. At exactly 2:27, I was playing on my phone, we hear someone scream in a panicked voice, "What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck, dude?" We head out of the outdoor shower and see a man booking it across the street towards our house, cuts through our yard, and run right beside the shower. The maintenance man runs to his car and whips out of the laundromat and turns down the road, away from our house, hits a parked car, continues screeching down the street and finally wrecking. We can't see the car, we just heard a loud crash. We go upstairs to everyone on the porch, and we're like, did you see that? Did that just happen? We call the police and they're there within 5 minutes. One cop goes down the road to the accident. There's a shoe and some other stuff on the road, and the laundromat door is still hanging wide open. The police tape everything off, and being so close, we hear them radio that there's blood everywhere and they need to call others. 2 more cops show up. There's now 4 cops in this little laundromat parking lot. We give them our story. They cannot physically write most of us as witnesses as we were drinking, but they still want to know what we saw. They start searching for weapons where the one guy ran, which was mainly through our yard. Me and the boyfriend are freaking out because not only did we smoke a lot of bud right there, but we also were smoking right when the guy ran past us. The cops don't keep us updated on anything at all. We got some looks from them for the smell, but they didn't say anything. After they complete their investigation, we see a cleaning crew come and then they lock the laundromat doors, after we get our blanket. We see in the newspaper the next day that a homeless man came in and stabbed the maintenance man, and was trying to rob him in the process. When the maintenance man got a good swing on the guy, he ran out and away, towards the beach. The police found a homeless guy a few blocks away. I guess the maintenance man was trying to get to the laundromat owner's house, not sure why, also a few blocks in the other direction when he got in his car. The maintenance man got taken to the hospital and was okay. The homeless man obviously got taken to prison. I'm really glad that I asked my boyfriend's dad to go check on the blanket, because I just missed being in the laundromat during this whole ordeal by less than 20 minutes. After all the commotion was gone, we all felt like we deserved a big blunt and a few stiff drinks, then locked the doors and went to bed. Nothing else happened for the rest of our vacation. So, homeless guy who really needed some money, let's not meet. Ever. I've been reading this sub for a pretty long time, and up until now have luckily avoided frightening situations that may be worthy of a post. This happened about 3 weeks ago. Though I'm generally a slightly paranoid person as it stands, I'm glad to have read so many of these stories. It probably helped me make a safe decision on that night a few weeks ago. I'm a small woman in her early 20s who lives alone in a smallish condo/apartment with her cat, on the second floor of the building, where I moved in a few months ago. There are 2 doors one must enter to get inside my apartment. The first is outside, leading into the building, and the second is obviously my apartment door itself. Tenants have keys for the outside door, which has only one lock, whereas the actual apartment doors have both locks and deadbolts. Otherwise, a visitor must be buzzed in to be allowed inside. For some clarity, there are 8 apartments per building in my complex, with an outside door on either side of the building. Mine is closer to the back, and is situated directly above a currently empty apartment. My downstairs neighbor to the left is my age, the only neighbor I'm close with, and is often away staying with her boyfriend. This means that while I live technically near others, my home is slightly isolated. There is an outdoor light situated next to the door, but I'd noticed when returning home that the bulb had either broken or burned out, and hadn't thought to contact maintenance to fix it, as it was late and I was tired. There hadn't appeared to be many others home in my building, as the parking lot on my side wasn't particularly full. I was taking care of a few chores around the house at around 10 p.m. Friday night, running the dishwasher and folding laundry. I'd had a long week at school and had arrived home probably an hour to an hour and a half before. My cat was keeping me company as I puttered around. It's hard to hear much outside while the dishwasher is going, and I was generally distracted, but barely noticed a soft rustling sort of sound outside. It didn't seem too strange aside from being repetitive. I really wasn't unnerved by this point, but being constantly anxious anyway, was too frightened of the dark to look outside the window to that side of the building. This might very well have been totally unrelated, but I think it bears mentioning. Fast forward a little while, and I was standing at my kitchen counter working on a report on my laptop. Sitting kills. Over the sound of the dishwasher, I heard a soft knock on my door, upon which my cat bolted for the bedroom. Unsure at first if I really heard anything, I went still and waited a moment. There it was again, quiet, but a little longer and faster. This made me pretty uneasy, as it's late, but my first thought is that it might be one of my neighbors. I approach the door quietly, and look out the peephole. As I mentioned, the only neighbor I know well is the young woman who lives downstairs, but I'm familiar with what all the others look like. The man standing outside was completely unfamiliar to me, tall, wearing either a dark blue or black jacket, Caucasian, with dark hair. He didn't look too unusual, just unfamiliar. What was unusual, though, was how close he was standing to the door. Even distorted through the peephole, he was so close I would guess him to be standing square on the mat in the hallway, leaning his face in slightly and staring at the peephole. There was an odd sort of energy in his stance, if that makes any sense. I immediately felt extremely unnerved, and glad that I make very little noise when I walk. I backed up about 3 feet from the door and waited. I'm not totally sure how much time passed, but he probably stood there a couple of minutes longer before I heard him go downstairs and through the outside door. Now, I've had a neighbor from downstairs knock on my door in the evening before to ask me if I was experiencing a power outage, which he was. He'd brought his wife with him, probably to reassure me, and stood a reasonable distance back from the door after knocking firmly. This was exactly what this strange guy didn't do, which is why it set me on edge. However, always trying to convince myself I was making a big deal out of nothing, I told myself that this had probably been a similar sort of situation, but was far too immediately uncomfortable to consider answering the door. I just decided to listen to my gut. I texted both my mom and my male friend about the situation, and my friend offered to come keep me company, but by that time I had talked myself out of some of my nervousness and assured him that I was fine. I went to sleep about an hour later and woke up having mostly forgotten about it. Shit got weird the next day. Only in the context of what I saw the next morning did the knock even seem all that frightening. I had agreed to accompany my mom and her boyfriend yard sale hopping that morning in some nearby neighborhoods. It was a Saturday, and they were picking me up early, around 7:30. My mom gave me a call from her car when they arrived on my side of the building to let me know to come down. I grabbed my bag, went out my door and downstairs. As soon as I opened the outside door, something was clearly wrong. The handle turned very loosely, the door opened very easily, and upon shutting again behind me, the handle itself completely fell out of the hole. Looking back, I wish I'd taken a picture of it because it's a little hard to describe, but it had been messed with. The outside portion of the door handle was held in place with screws, and that part was completely missing. The lock component of the handle was also missing. Essentially what was left was a stripped handle with a hole in the middle where the keyhole should be. Both those parts, when I searched the surrounding grass and sidewalk, were nowhere to be found. Essentially, it had been thoroughly fucked with. My mom, having heard about the knocking incident from me the night before, was not cool with this at all and insisted I report the incident. I contacted maintenance and the police, but as there are no cameras situated near my apartment and definitely not near my door, I am not particularly hopeful. I've gotten no additional information as of now. In talking with my neighbors, who were obviously made aware of the vandalism, nobody who was at home/awake around that time heard anyone knock on their door or saw, heard, or came in contact with the man I described. Maybe this is overthinking it, but this makes me more nervous. It makes the approach seem more targeted and less random, as if he knew it was me there. For what it's worth, the outside door handle was replaced very quickly that afternoon. Nothing like it has happened since. I've never posted before though, so go easy on me. My story takes place 19 years ago. I'm a female and I was 16 at the time. I'm 5 feet 7 inches, I was about 130 pounds, and I like to think that I'm strong, but I couldn't take on 2 young men. So, it begins with my mother and stepfather going away on vacation, and leaving my 17-year-old sister and I home alone. They did this quite often. My parents were not winning any parenting awards. My sister and I didn't get along either, she was a nasty piece of work. Luckily, she'd decided to go stay at a friend's house while my parents were away. I was nervous about being alone, so I had my boyfriend staying with me. He was a pugnacious dickhead, but I'm glad he was there. One night, Brett and I were at my house, and we had just started messing around, when I heard a really loud knock at the door. My room was in the basement, but at the landing area between the stairs, you know how some staircases are broken up, and there's a turnaround area, that's the landing. There was a window that I could see the stairs that lead up to the alcove of our front porch. I could see 2 people standing there, and just as I was peeking out to see them better, one of them saw me. I remember feeling the breath sucked out of my chest. There were two young men standing on my porch. It was almost midnight, and I had no idea who the hell they were. The guy that saw me let his friend know, and they both looked in the window and asked me to come to the door. My boyfriend had gone upstairs to open the door, and I remember freaking out because I had told him not to. He was one of those guys that thought he was Mr. Tough Guy and believed he could fight anyone. He was telling the guys to leave just as I joined him at the door. They saw me and called me by name and asked for me to let them in. Brett told them to fuck off. One guy, I think he said his name was Wes Orley, something like that, said, "Come outside, we just want to talk to you." To my boyfriend. I said, "No, thanks, we're going to bed," and shut the door. I was really confused and getting very frightened. They stood on my doorstep for a few minutes, then started knocking again. Wes Lashley explained to me, through the door, that he was my sister's friend, and that she had told him I was alone at home and that they should come by. I knew my sister, and I believed them. That did not, however, make me stupid. I told them to leave. They started kicking the door. It was shaking and I seriously feared that it would not hold up. I was so scared that I ran into my kitchen to call the police. I was assured that they would be there very soon, and to lock the doors and stay on the phone. Meanwhile, Brett was still yelling at them, which only served to piss these guys off more. I begged him to shut up, but he would not listen to me. I was locking all the doors and windows upstairs, while Brett went down to check the doors. Down in the basement, there was a huge mudroom area, and it had a thick wooden door made of 2x4 planks, kind of like a barn door. The door had a big old lock on it, some spring-loaded turn bolt, and also had a plank to set across it, like a barricade. One of the guys was pounding on this door, and Brett heard him tell the other to go try the back door. This stupid door was one of those 1960s things that had a happy little square window, right at face level, with a little curtain across it. I was at this door, trying to jam a chair under the flimsy knob when I looked up and saw the unnamed guy just looking in at me. I screamed, and the dispatcher asked me if I was okay. I barely squeaked out that one of the guys was looking right at me through the window. He was older than me, probably about 20, and he was tall, and he looked scary as hell. His dark eyes were drilling into me and he wore this creepy, placid smile on his face. I had never seen this man before, but he knew my name. He tapped on the window with one finger, never breaking eye contact, and said, "Becky, let me in." I couldn't breathe. The knob was rattling as he was messing with it. He said again, "Let me in, Becky. I just want to see if you're okay. I just want to talk." He stared at me. I didn't say anything. I was just 3 feet from him, with my back pressed to the fridge, when he suddenly started beating on the door and screamed, "Let me the fuck in this house. If I have to break in, I will kill you both, so just open the fucking door." He looked maniacal. Then there was a loud knock at the front door, and the man went silent. He gave me the most hateful sneer I'd ever seen. I heard shouting and he ran down the back stairs and into the woods along the back of my yard. Brett had gone to the door. It was the cops. There were 2 female officers at the front door, and one was just starting to raise her voice asking where I was when I came to the door, too. I was so relieved, I started sobbing. I told them they had run away through the woods. Luckily, the woods were not deep. They actually ran along the bank of a large river, and there was a bridge just up from where the woods met the road. One officer ran around the back, while one stayed to get a description and take my statement. Officer number 1 came back and spoke to officer number 2, said she saw them running across the bridge. They both left in a hurry, hopped in the cruiser and sped off. I was still crying and shaking, but I was absolutely furious at Brett for riling them up. I went to make myself some tea, thinking of all the ways I could kill my sister when she got home. I had so much anger, fear, and adrenaline pumping through me I could have ripped her to shreds at that moment. 20 minutes later, the cruiser came back. There were two guys sitting in the back seat and the officers wanted me to confirm it was the right guys. I looked through the window, and saw them. They still looked terrifying to me. They were in cuffs, and could not get to me, but I would not get close to them. Neither would look at me. I confirmed it was them, and we spoke a bit. I told the cops about my sister suggesting that these two men should come see me. Officer number 2 kind of mumbled what a bitch. I had to agree. I pressed charges for attempted forcible entry, property damage, they had broken a window in the living room, trespassing, disorderly conduct and attempted assault. Initially they both plead not guilty, but later admitted to some of the charges. They both got 18 months in jail and were forbidden to contact me or my boyfriend ever again, and to be at least 500 meters from me at all times. I never heard from them again. I confronted my sister about it, and of course she denied it, then laughed about it. Laughed at me. She was an awful person. I have no idea what their true intentions were, as they maintained that they were just there to talk to me. I'm thankful I didn't have to find out. So, too strange to me guys who just want to talk at midnight, let's not meet.